This is a big trade rumor. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. We need more subscribers. Come on. Let's go. All right, so this is a big one. This was one when I started listening to it, I kind of just had to record it and make sure I listened to every single aspect because this was a big one from the Zach Lowe podcast. Just came out today. If you haven't, you can go listen to it. It's the Zach Lowe pod. But I'm going to cover the main points so you know exactly what was said. Basically, Zach Lowe kind of reiterated some things. You know, he has talked a few times over the summer that Lauri Markkanen is the big and most interesting trade candidate on the market. But this one, he just went into it and just really focused on the Detroit Pistons and the Utah Jazz. But basically, the big quotes from this one are mainly that Zach Lowe would be really surprised if Lauri Markkanen isn't traded at some point this year. And the exact quote he made is, I think Lauri Markkanen is getting traded this year. The question really for this seems like when, not if. Now, you could argue why or why not you do this, but it's very clear that Lauri Markkanen wants to win games, and that's just not going to happen with this Jazz team this upcoming season, at least to a high level, and maybe not for a couple seasons as the Jazz youth develop. Yes, the Jazz are on a trajectory that's going to keep getting better and better as they continue to add high-level talent in the draft, but that talent takes time to develop. And so we'll see if that's something Lauri Markkanen wants to be a part of. And Zach Lowe kind of talked about that. Does Lauri Markkanen look at this team and be like, what am I doing here? And want some sort of move. It's also important to remember that when these guys that are on the level as Zach Lowe, who during the podcast talked about all the different GMs he's been talking to, is extremely plugged in. And he is not going to change or talk about these things unless he's heard them. So it's interesting that he just goes completely in on this, talks about him being someone that he expects to be traded, and then he goes into some of the teams that might be interested. So here's his list of teams. The first major teams, Detroit won. By the way, Michael Pina came out with a trade article today as well on The Ringer talking about a potential Lauri Markkanen trade. And that trade really includes Jaden Ivey, who I like, coming off an injury, but he was a top 4 pick, or top 5. I think he went number 5 overall, plus first-round picks for the Jazz, and maybe Ron Holland, although I don't know if they're going to add all those players. But it certainly sounds like a trade of Jaden Ivey, Ron Holland, and multiple firsts possibly on the table. Zach Lowe hinted very strongly, got a little white mark on my hat there, that is some sort of trade possibility there, and that the Detroit Pistons, if the Jazz want to make that trade, are interested. That is very clear from what Zach Lowe said. So anyways, his teams are, and kind of in the order of interest, Detroit, Miami, Portland, and Toronto. Those are the 4 teams that we're looking at possibly making big-time offers to the Jazz. He then goes on to mention San Antonio and Houston, but they may want bigger fish, is what Zach Lowe said. Finally, there's a couple teams that might be interested in a 3-team trade. That includes Cleveland and Memphis. Zach Lowe also mentioned Sacramento, and we know that Sacramento was interested last offseason, but the trade is probably something like Zach LaVine and picks. And Zach Lowe mentions that, that doesn't make a lot of sense for Utah. Zach LaVine will still help the Jazz probably win more games than they want. I don't know what he really does for Utah. They're probably just going to end up trying to move him as well. The interesting one about the Detroit trade that is also in line with what the Jazz have been doing with all their trades is that it includes Tobias Harris. And I believe that Tobias Harris's contract expires after this season. In fact, I'm going to just pull this up really quick as I record this and make sure. But yes, Tobias Harris's contract is an expiring deal. So that would help the Jazz get off the money from Markkanen and have that cap space so that after next offseason, if the Jazz win the lottery and get a Darren Peterson or a Cam Boozer and they want to use that cap money to bring on more players, they could. with Lauri Markkanen, you're kind of spent, especially if the Jazz make another trade, some sort of move with Walker Kessler, you know, whether to re-sign him or move him, they're still going to have cap issues with that. The thing is the Walker Kessler thing is also interesting. Walker Kessler is eligible for an extension of his contract right now, and the contract has not been done. And so it kind of looks like the Jazz are just going to watch that contract all year. But there is sign and trade possibility with Walker Kessler as well. So we'll see if any of these things come to fruition. But this is a big time rumor, guys. This is from Zach Lowe, plugged in. He has been calling and talking to people, and these are the things that he is hearing. And I would not be surprised if there's a little bit of Jazz intel there too, because he is plugged in with the Jazz as much as anyone. So, guys, that's all I got. Let me know. What do you think? What type of trade would you want to do? Let me know in the comments. To the All-Stars, thank you so much. And to all the members, you're incredible. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you next time.